President Roberta Metsola, Vice Presidents, distinguished members of the European Parliament. It's such a great honor to start the speech with such wonderful news. My sincere congratulations to Andrei Pachobut, his family, and all Belarusians. Of course, my congratulations go to Mzia Amaravati as well. I wish to thank ECR and EPP for nominating Andrei Pachobut for the Sakharov Prize. I want to thank everyone who voted for his candidacy. Andrei is a Belarusian Polish journalist, became a symbol of resistance and personal enemy of the dictator. Before hearing his verdict of 8 years in high-security prison, he said, "I'm going to prison with clear conscience. I always knew that when times like this come to Belarus, I will end up in prison." Awarding the Sakharov Prize to Andrei and fearless Mzia Amaravati from Georgia sends a strong message to all political prisoners that you are not alone and journalism is not a crime. As German parliamentarian Manuela Rothmann once said, "Today, heroes are not in the movies, heroes are in prisons." And Andrei and Mzia are one of them. So my congratulations, it's really big victory. So dear Roberta, thank you for your kind introduction. I don't know if you remember, but 5 years ago, in those days of our peaceful revolution, you were one of the first leaders I met. We had just won an election and tens of thousands were already detained. And you told me then, don't give up. Keep fighting no matter what. We will always be here to you. And you kept your promise. From the very first day, the European Parliament stood on our side. While governments hesitated, you acted, denouncing Lukashenko's fake legitimacy, calling for sanctions, promoting visas and possibilities for Belarusian people. Together, we signed a memorandum on cooperation between the European Parliament and Belarus Democratic Forces, showing that Belarus' rightful place is here in the European Union. You took bold, unconventional steps that will be remembered in history books. Thank you. And I want to thank each parliamentarian who adopted a political prisoner, signed a postcard, joined a solidarity rally, voted for resolutions and defended Belarus' right for self-determination. Thank you. I want to thank the delegation on Belarus, its amazing chair, Małgorzata Hasevska, and the standing rapporteur, Helmut Brandstetter, for their leadership and bringing Belarus voices here in Parliament. Also, I want to commend Lithuania and Poland, our closest neighbours and allies, who stand firm against Lukashenko's regime, support our movement and continue to accept Belarusians fleeing the terror. And of course, big thanks to the European Commission, in particular President Ursula von der Leyen, Commissioner Marta Kos and High Representative Kaja Kallas for their steadfast support to Belarusian media, civil society and human rights defenders, and for pledging the €3 billion plan which we will implement after democratic change. You know, change may not come in a single day, but I know it will come for sure. You know, today we are building the rails of that change so that one day we can place Belarus on the right track, European track, that no Russia and no Lukashenko can ever block again. And yes, I believe that Belarus will be a success story and we will all write this story together. Dear friends, for 5 years I was coming to this chamber with a portrait of my husband. He was in Lukashenko's prison, isolated, starved, denied a voice. 3 months ago, when I saw him for the first time, I could barely recognize him. He had lost 60 kilos and looked like he returned from the Gulag. But you know what? The next morning he told me, "Now let's get to work." And this is the essence of Belarus. Beaten, this is the essence of Belarus. Beaten, exhausted, but never broken. Sergey brought the new energy and strength to our movement. He is also catching up with new reality. While he was behind bars, he missed our inspiring protests. He missed migration crisis, brutal repressions, and the beginning of the war. And he even missed his own Sakharov Prize ceremony. Of course, Sergey's release is my personal joy. But I cannot fully rejoice while thousands of families remain divided. While Ales Belyatsky cannot kiss his wife, while our brave Masha, Maria Kolesnikova, cannot hug her father, while wives write letters to nowhere, while children fall asleep without their parents' lullaby, Sergey's release is not a miracle. He is free thanks to you, your words, your pressure, and your solidarity. It was you who, for all these years, kept fighting for Sergey and release of other political prisoners. His release proved that everything is possible if we are bold, consistent, and patient. And it is a joint effort, a synergy of European pressure and American diplomacy. Here I want to commend President Trump and his team. It was a remarkable humanitarian operation that saved 70 people. President Trump has now gone further. He has demanded from Lukashenko the release of all 1,300 political hostages: students, teachers, doctors, factory workers, journalists. And we all pray to see more people free soon, including our common hero, Andrei Pochobut. However, let's not be fooled by Lukashenko's so-called humanity. Let's not be naive. He releases 60 and immediately arrests 120. You know, it is like a revolving door. Even those pardoned are not completely free. Deported without documents, handicapped, a sack over their head. Their families, still in Belarus, are harassed by the KGB. Those who refuse to leave, like Mykola Statkevich, leader of the Belarusian Social Democrats, are thrown back to prison. For Lukashenko, people are nothing but bargaining chips. He wants sanctions lifted, he wants legitimizations, he dreams of returning to business as usual. But we have seen this movie before, the same show for 30 years, and we all know how it ends. Repression continues not because the regime is strong, but because it is weak, because people despise him. The dictator knows the moment repression stops, Belarusians will rise again. And yes, the parliamentarian sanctions do work, no matter what the regime's apologies say. We see it already. Sanctions force the regime to make concessions and to release people. The regime's economy is stagnating. The deficit keeps growing. He survives primarily on the war contracts from Russia. That is why it's not time to ease pressure. It is time to push harder and to demand more. And here I propose a two-track approach. While the US focuses on the humanitarian track, on releasing people and ending repression, I call on the European Union to stay firm and principled. Let the US sanctions serve to save people's lives, but the EU sanctions must aim for systemic and irreversible change in Belarus. So keep the pressure until the regime stops jailing old people, stops blackmailing Europe with migrants, stops arming Russia's war, and Belarus starts the path towards democracy. Your cards are stronger, and hold them until the right moment. Don't be naive. Lukashenko will never change himself, but the country around him has already changed. The majority of Belarusians have chosen peace, democracy and European future. And this future is impossible as long as Lukashenko remains in power. But even those around him, nomenclatura, are whispering about transition. Everyone understands change is inevitable. Many once believed that the Berlin Wall would stand forever, just as some now believe that dictatorship in Belarus will never fall. But it will. The dictator's time is ticking. Lukashenko is becoming a lame duck. This is what we must prepare for, post-Lukashenko Belarus. We must make sure that not only Belarus is ready, but that Europe is ready when the moment comes. To do that, we must keep pro-European spirit alive inside the country, through more contacts, exchanges and visas for ordinary Belarusians, open borders, cultural initiatives that strengthen national identity, through stronger support for independent media, such as our leading outlets Zerkala, Belsat, Nasha Niva or Radio Free Europe, reaching millions inside Belarus, through strengthening our democratic institutions, ready to assume responsibility when the window of opportunity opens. We already developed a set of reforms, our own European roadmap, to ensure that Belarus moves towards democracy and to prevent Russia from taking over. But the first thing we need is free and fair elections. And let me remind you, 5 years ago we already won elections by a landslide, and be sure we will win it again. But before all of that, one thing is paramount. Ukraine must win. We admire President Zelensky and the bravery of Ukrainian people. They are fighting not only for their own land, they fight for all of us. Ukraine's success will open a path for all our nations living in the shadow of the empire, not only for Belarus, but also Armenia, Georgia and Moldova. We Belarusians stand with Ukraine not only in words, but in deeds. Among our political prisoners, there are hundreds of heroes sentenced for solidarity with Ukraine, sabotaging Russian troops and sharing information. As we speak, Belarusian volunteers from Kalinovsky Regiment are fighting shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainians on the front lines. And they asked me to pass one message, the same one I heard from Roberta 5 years ago. Don't give up, Europe. When Ukraine is strong, Europe united and Russia weakened, change in Belarus will become only a matter of time. And this change can spark change in Russia too. So today I urge you, give Ukraine everything they need, not just to sustain, but to win. I urge you, weaken Putin by sanctioning his oil revenues and confiscating his assets. The weaker Russia becomes, the weaker Lukashenko is. I urge you, bring perpetrators to justice, not only Putin, but also Lukashenko with his cronies. Support Lithuanian referral to International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. Never before we were so close to opening the case. And while keeping pressure on the regime, support our people, those inside the country and in exile. Thousands of Belarusians in the European Union became de facto stateless, without documents, and face transnational repressions. So invest into people, not dictators, because military power alone means nothing without people ready to defend their values. And I urge you, see Belarus not only as a threat, but as an opportunity to change the status quo and weaken Russia's presence on your eastern flank. So do not be afraid of dictators. Let's make them afraid. Dear friends, all the things I was saying today are already in your resolution to be voted on today. I deeply appreciate all the authors and groups who have contributed. It sends a clear message to the Belarusian people. You are not alone. But also to the regime. We see your crimes. It lays a solid foundation for a proactive EU strategy on Belarus aimed to achieve solid and irreversible change. I will take this resolution to every government I meet, but above all, I will make sure that people inside the country see it and know that Europe stands with Belarus. So, dear Parliament, in conclusion, let me say a few words in Belarusian. First, because I want our language to be heard in the European Parliament, and second, because I want to address my fellow Belarusians watching online. Дорогі білоруси, і тыя, хто ў краіне, і тыя, хто выехаў, ніколі не губляйце надзею, ніколі не здавайцеся і не здраджвайце сваім прынцыпам. Як казаў Алесь Беляцкі, я веру, бо ведаю, што мінае ноч і надыходзіць ранак. Я ведаю, што нас няўтомна штурхае наперад. І гэта надзея і мара. Калі мы разам, калі верым, калі працуем дзеля пераменаў, мы ўсё адолеем. Dear friends, now I want you to meet my personal hero, Sergey Tikhanovsky, the man to whom I am grateful with all my heart for all he did and endured. After all, it was for him that I became an accidental politician. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my husband, Sergey Tikhanovsky.